grad of Derry area, and I'm both proud and privileged to be here tonight and have the opportunity to announce the names of 11 of our distinguished alumni and 2 of our incredible athletic teams who all have made an impact on not only our community and the world around us, but who have touched the lives of so many around them. I have once again thoroughly enjoyed learning about our inductees and their families through this exciting process. I was even called by the name of Goldfinger by Mr. Don Smith, and I enjoyed each and every one of our conversations that lasted more than probably about an hour on each occasion. But I enjoyed that. That was something that I really take pride in, knowing that I am a Derry area alum and so many of you out there are as well. As I mentioned, I've been really looking forward to this night. You are all truly amazing people. I applaud you for being the example for so many of us to try and emulate. The amount of pride and dedication to your work does not go unnoticed, and for that, you receive this special honor this evening. As much as I would like to stand up here and read all of your biographies word for word, would be here till Monday. My goal as your MC this evening is to give our audience a background and then allow the inductee or the speakers to have the floor. It's your night, and we are looking forward to hearing from you all. Before we begin the ceremony this evening, you will hear from retired Derry area music teacher, Hall of Fame committee member, and proud alum Karen, alongside her son David, who will perform an opening fanfare. Following the fanfare, we ask you to please stand for the Derry area alma mater performed by Karen, her son David, and her son John. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, before I bring up our first inductee of the evening, I would like to tell you about 2 honorees for tonight's event. We did not do this last year, but over the summer, our committee discussed recognizing current students for their outstanding achievements as an honoree, and hopefully, future Derry Area Hall of Famers. Tonight, we'd like to recognize seniors Sophia Mazzoni and David Carey. Recognized in the athletic individual category for her accomplishments in track and field, more specifically the javelin. As a junior, Sophia became the first girls PIAA track champion in team history. Her gold-winning toss was 161 feet 10 inches, but she didn't stop there. Sophia was crowned a national champion in June at the New Balance Nationals. Her winning throw was 156 feet 11 inches. She was obviously heavily recruited by several Division I universities, and just a little over a week ago announced her verbal commitment to Auburn University. We're so happy for Sophia and the hard work and dedication it takes to become a champion. And while at Auburn, Sophia plans to major in sports psychology. Ladies and gentlemen, our first honoree tonight in the category of athletic individual, Sophia Mazzoni. She'd like to say a few words.
Hi everybody. I just wanted to thank everybody that has supported me throughout the past couple years. I have never been so grateful for something in my life, and hopefully I can make Derry proud in the SEC. Thank you.
Senior David Carey is a drum major in our marching band. He is also a member of concert and jazz band, brass ensemble, concert choir, high school ensemble, and he takes part as a cast member in our great musicals that we put on here at Derry area. He has represented our district as a trombone player at numerous music honor festivals and has been selected to participate in the Westmoreland Music Educators Association's County Band Festival and the Fay West Honors Band Festival. David's accolades are many. He's auditioned and was named first chair trombone at the Pennsylvania Music Educators Band Festival in both his sophomore and junior years. He advanced to the Region Band Festival and was awarded third chair trombone as a sophomore, and in his junior year he earned first chair honors. In both years, David advanced to perform at the prestigious PMEA All-State Band Concert. Among being able to audition again this year for the same opportunities, David has submitted an audition and application for selection to the National Association for Music Education's All-Eastern Honors Band, which includes high school musicians from all over the northeastern United States. Outside of school, he gives his time to the community, participating musically and in many other productions. He plans to pursue a degree in music performance and music education after high school. Ladies and gentlemen, our Fine Arts honoree, David Carey.
My grandparents in the audience, thank you, and thank you to my mom, as well as all the teachers, especially Mr. Ogle, who's helped me to reach this point in my life, and thank you to the school board for allowing me to go on all these trips and advance as far as I have. So thank you, Derry, and definitely will be a proud Derry alum come this spring. Thank you.
Our first inductee is a 1949 graduate of Derry Township and a 61-year resident of the Derry area school district. He spent 55 of those years doing something that started as just a small project. But what Daniel Skubeck did not realize at the time, he was building a machine of memories and statistics that will last forever. Dan has written volumes of books on the history of Derry Township and Derry area football, including history books written by the first female football coach he talked about in the nation by the name of Pauline Bruce Smith of Bell Township, which is now the Kiski Area School District. They played Derry Township that year, 1943, and Dan will tell you that was one of the most cherished volumes, and it includes a letter written to him by the late Mrs. Smith. He had every name of every player, scores of every game, box scores, and photos to go with it. Dan is now 93 years young, and he plans to donate all of his volumes, plus one, on the achievements of Derry football, wrestling, and that's all going to the Caldwell Memorial Library on our Derry area campus. He also wants to remind everyone that this marks the 100th season of the sport of football for the combination of Derry Township and Derry area. His hard work and dedication will certainly live on forever. So in the category of lifetime achievement, we are proud to announce Daniel Skubek into the 2024 class of the Derry Area Hall of Fame. Speaking this evening on Daniel's behalf will be his son, Derry area grad and longtime sports editor of the Latrobe Bulletin, Mr. Randy Skubek.
Thank you everyone for coming. Good evening. 5.5 decades. That's how long my father has been working on this project. History of Derry Township, Derry area football. Spanning the first 100 years. From that day in 1969, when he first started compiling information and putting it together, to October 9th, 2005, when the organization, the Friends of Caldwell Memorial Library, held a recognition event in his honor, to now, 55 years later, with his induction into the Derry Area Hall of Fame, he and his project have come full circle. It was to be a much smaller endeavor. At first, only the 31-year history of Derry Township football, from 1925 to 1956, before the merger with Derry Borough, with the help of the late Emerson Hunter, who was then head of the Derry Township Old Timers Football Association. But 2 years later, Emerson Hunter passed away, leaving my father at least first on his own. The first 31 years of my father's work, which spanned the Derry Township football teams, were dedicated to Emerson Hunter. So my father decided to see if he could get some more information and copies of team and individual photos from yearbooks in the library of the old high school, only to learn that they had all perished in the fire at the school in 1952. Then my father had to turn to anyone and everyone he could to loan him yearbooks so he could continue. It's those people whom we thank the most. For without them, there would be no history of Derry Township and Derry area football. And there is a section thanking those who helped him along the way. Once he compiled those first 31 years, my father decided he would try to do 50. And wouldn't you know it, that 50th year, Derry won the Old Foothills Conference for the first and only time. Back then, Derry area was into the conference with the likes of Hempfield area, Greater Latrobe, Greensburg, Salem, Norwin, Kiski area, and Connellsville. But the volume my father treasures the most is the one with the 1943 year. That season, because the coach of Bell Township left to take another job, shortly before the season was to begin, the school turned to the late Pauline Rue Smith, who became the first ever female high school football coach in the country. Consequently, Bell Township was going to drop football that year in 1943, but she didn't want to see that happen. So she said she would do it if the players agreed, and they did. By the way, that game between Derry Township and Bell Township was played on this ground right here, right where you're sitting, when the football team ran parallel to Chestnut Street. And the event gained national media attention because of its significance and the fact that it was a season opener. My father was eventually able to track down Pauline Rue Smith, who was teaching at Kiski area, which now encompasses Bell Township. He wrote her explaining what he was doing, and she was kind enough to send him a letter back. Now the letter, or a copy of it, is included with the 1943 season. Then there was that one player from the 1930s whom my father had a very, very difficult finding the name of. Finally, after years and years of seeking out someone who might be able to help him out, he came up with that name. Every player's name is included in his history. Or how about using a Latrobe Bulletin microfilm machine, writing down information by hand, and burning out light bulb after light bulb after light bulb. Then he found out that the nearby library had a microfilm machine that made copies, so that made things a little easier. Hard work, dedication, and perseverance. That's what went into his work. I can attest to that. And those binder volumes, all 27 of them, include football write-ups, team and individual senior photos, game statistics, and other information. There are also our volume for Derry area wrestling and boys volleyball and other miscellaneous happenings from around the area and region. This year marks the 100th for combined football at Derry Township and Derry area, and what will be the final entry in that history. And once that is compiled, those volumes, all done with his own time and funds, will be donated to the Caldwell Memorial Library here on the Derry area campus sometime after the school year. Some of those volumes are on display in the lobby beforehand. Hopefully some of you got a chance to glance through them. My father would like to thank all of those who contributed to this undertaking in any manner, and to Chairman Don Flickinger and the Hall of Fame Committee members for their consideration and now this induction to the Derry Area Hall of Fame in the category of Lifetime Achievement. My father, and I would also like to thank his nephew George Gubick Jr. and his wife Barb, friends David and Smith, and everyone else for attending. We also want to congratulate the other inductees, past and present, for receiving their honors. Thank you.
Our next inductee became Derry Area High School's first ever guidance counselor in 1961. And for the next 25 years, William Oshevsky guided, counseled, advised, and mentored thousands of students in our district. His guiding principle was that all students could further their education and improve their chances for success in life. Mr. Oshevsky also helped coordinate the creation of the Eastern Westmoreland Vocational Technical School, as we know now as the EWCTC. He worked with county educational leaders and political leaders to promote the establishment of the Westmoreland County Community College. Bill also served as the head football coach in his first 7 years, and he compiled an impressive 37-14 record. Along the way, he facilitated football scholarships for several of his players at colleges and universities, both large and small. Speaking this evening in memory of Mr. Olszewski will be his daughter Sue, a 1969 Derry area graduate. For posthumous induction into the Derry Area Hall of Fame in the category of Lifetime Achievement, we present William Olszewski.
As he said, I'm a 1969 graduate of Derry High School. I'm the fourth child of 8 of Dad's children, and I was his favorite. Allow me just a few minutes to talk about my dad's journey to Derry. You might just think a little about his passion for what he did in the high school, which is to guide students to whatever their gifts were. My father was born, was a son of Polish immigrant parents, born in 1921. I remember having a conversation with my dad about his early education years, and I was surprised to hear that he spoke only Polish until he was in the first or second grade, which I don't know why, but that surprised me a little bit. I also remember a story he told me about his early education in grade school. He went to a Catholic grade school. And he told me that, I believe it were the Sisters of St. Joseph's, who were the teachers, that they had uninvited him to attend. I think that was code for he was a disciplinary problem, and they asked him to leave for a short period. That said, he figured out a way to make his way through grade school, through Jeanette High School, where he lived, was born and lived. And he also was the quarterback of their high school team. In 1939, Jeanette was playing Ambridge in the WPIA championship game. And luck would have it, my dad ran back the opening kickoff, and Jeanette won the game 6-0. That probably, even though he was a small guy, probably set the tone for his passion for football, and ultimately, as he developed his career, for coaching. There's a little sketchy time in my father's education after high school, in that he attended a whole host or a number of different higher ed educations in Mississippi, Community College of Mississippi, Seton Hall Prep, GW. We're not certain how that actually happened. Probably shouldn't ask. But like so many of his generation, World War II interrupted his education. He enlisted in the Army Air Corps in 1943 and served honorably for 3 years, discharged in 1946, and like so many members of the greatest generation, the GI Bill propelled his education beyond that. In 1946, then he enrolled in Indiana State College, now Indiana University in Pennsylvania. In 1949, he graduated with a teaching degree in history and social studies. His first teaching job was in Punxsutawney. His family was growing. Two of my siblings were born in Indiana. 3 of us were born in Punxsutawney. We were there for several years. He was an assistant football coach as well as a teacher. In 1953, we left there to go to St. Mary's, where he had his first head coaching football position. And in St. Mary's, in addition to teaching, he had a wonderful win-loss record of 39, 17, and 1. So he continued to excel, I guess, in coaching. And while we were at St. Mary's, he began to study to get a master's degree in counseling from Penn State. That took a couple of years, and in 1958 or 59, he got his master's degree from Penn State, but there was no guidance position for him at St. Mary's, so we moved first to East Huntington, now part of South Moreland School District, and then in 1961, he arrived at Derry. He arrived at Derry to establish the first guidance department, as well as to work in the community to help establish the Westmoreland Community College, as well as the vocational technical school. Most importantly, as previously mentioned, my father had a passion for helping young people find their way, establish or identify what their gifts were, whether academic or athletic, and trying to match those gifts up with a path toward a brighter future. My father loved this community. He loved this district. If my father had one superpower, it would have to be that he loved people. He liked what he did. He loved the kids of this community, and he worked really, really hard to help them find a way. He believed that education, or furthering your education, was a passport for a brighter future, and he worked hard to make sure that the kids of this district understood that. He worked with their parents to try to find the financial aid to propel them into that next chapter of their education, and he loved doing it every day. My dad would be really, really honored to have received this award from this community that he loves so much, and so I thank the committee who felt that his 25 years of service made him worthy of this award. I'd also like to thank the other honorees tonight. And I'd like to make one other statement on behalf of my siblings and I. Starting in 1964 and ending in 1982, 8 of us graduated from this high school. Derry's high school is not the largest, it's certainly not the most affluent, or was not the most affluent during the time that we were here. We probably did not have some of the educational and pedagogical amenities that many other wealthier districts had. But what we had was an administration that cared greatly and deeply about their kids. We had wonderful teachers who went out of their way to make sure that each child and each kid flourished. We had teachers like Bob Werner, Bill Weber, Bruno Conti, Phyllis Humphreys, and so many more that were very impactful on our development. The education we received at Derry helped to propel all 8 of us onto college and university studies and success in our lives. So on behalf of my family, on behalf of my siblings, I'd like to publicly thank this district, not only for the award that my father is receiving tonight, but for the education that we all received while being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Our next inductee literally took strength training and fitness to a new level in our area back in 2008 when he opened up a cutting-edge fitness center providing training to all ages. Sean Horwatt, a 1999 Derry area grad, took the chance and had a vision that he could make this a success while giving back to his Derry area community by offering a place to train. He called it Building Bodies Fitness Center, and its location is Pandora Road. Not only was Sean's vision realized, but because of his dedication and countless hours of planning and preparation in both the exercise and physiology fields, Building Bodies has become a place where, in the past 16 years, has been the training home to so many of our athletes here at Derry area. Since the inception of the facility, and because of the outpouring of support, Building Bodies has gone through 3 large corporate expansion projects that now houses Top Gun Fitness for adult and youth group personal training and Rough House Wrestling Club. Sean now has a staff of nearly 100 fitness trainers, some of whom he hires through the Derry Area Work Release Program. They assist him at the facility. His generosity to our school district does not go unnoticed. He has contributed through the development of strength and conditioning programs for many of our teams, and he served as a mentor to so many of our student athletes. Sean and his wife Haley have also participated and hosted a number of school-related fundraisers and sponsored events over the years, raising money for our district. Personally, I was lucky enough to see Sean's work in action early on as I took our baseball team there to train, and all I'll say about that is it paid off in a big way. We all appreciate his professional efforts establishing himself as a prominent figure in the health and wellness industry. Speaking on behalf of Sean tonight will be Mr. Brendan Kelly. Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly present Sean Horwatt in the category of Business and Entrepreneurship at the Derry Area Hall of Fame.
Oh, I've already been yelled at by the family that I better speak up. So if I'm loud, it's not the first time I've been yelled at by this family. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As mentioned, my name is Brendan Kelly, and I am proud, very proud, to be here to celebrate my good friend, Sean Horwatt, as he is inducted this evening into the Derry Hall of Fame. I want, though, to begin by additionally acknowledging the others that are being inducted this evening. I'm not local to Derry, and I didn't grow up far from here. I grew up in Westmoreland County. But I'll tell you something. I've always understood there's there's something very special about Derry and its people. My father used to say, it's something in the water in Derry. And as I stand here tonight, I'm reminded how special this place is and its people. This community is pretty exemplary, and it reminds me of a quote. Never ever doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. So quickly I'm going to talk about Sean. I think we know him by different names. I apologize for the voice, I got allergies. He's gone by many names. Coach, mentor, boss, supporter, friend. This last one I have a big question mark next to because he wasn't around. But apparently in high school he was known as Alumni. Can somebody validate? And I think I've been asked to say a few words tonight about Sean because I'm quite honored and humbled that he references me as his big brother, although we're not related by blood. All right, so I promise to be quick. I'm going to talk about Sean in two independent ways. First, I'm going to talk about Sean, sort of the resume, what he looks like on paper. And then I'm going to share several points that have come up that I think summarize Sean as a person. Sean, the resume on paper. He was the first in his family to pursue higher education, obtain a degree, and start a career as a computer software specialist. But as any of us who know Sean, it's practically impossible for him to do only one thing at a time. Impossible. So, while working as a computer software specialist, he simultaneously initiated a successful career in the health and fitness industry that has now spanned 2 decades, a passion that would ultimately bring him back to this area, to his hometown of Derry. In 2006, Sean returned to Derry and took on the strength and agilities coach role for the Derry area high school football team. The programs he built eventually expanded to include the high school baseball team. Thereafter, and as was previously mentioned, 16 years ago, Sean opened Building Bodies Fitness Center, a full-service, all-age fitness center that has become an absolute cornerstone of this community. Not even 7 years later, by 2015, Building Bodies grew from 500 square feet, this stuns me, to 18,000 square feet, which today includes 3 aerobic studios, 24/7 access, wellness seminars, programming for all ages, inclusive athletic equipment, modalities, and group fitness. And it houses a sister company, Bright Start Occupational Therapy, and a brother company, one I particularly love, Rough House Wrestling, which is absolutely, as I said, one of my favorites. I'm just going to do a quick footnote here, because the success of Building Bodies certainly is assignable to Sean. He initiated it. But it has been sustained and continues to thrive because of the people sitting here and the people of Derry community. And also, of course, through the support of his wife, Haley, his children, Cassie, Slade, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Chemsky crew as well. All right, so finally, in addition to his accomplishments here at Derry, Sean has expanded his business influence regionally by helping to create 2 collaborative personal training studios in Pittsburgh, East End Fitness, and a freelance training space in Squirrel Hill. I don't know how he has the time. It's astounding. But in total, Sean's businesses have employed nearly 100 team members, including certified fitness trainers, instructors, and local high school student athletes embarking on their first jobs. So that's a bit of Sean on paper. I'm going to conclude and address Sean the person. To be honest, I stand in awe of Sean when I'm with him. And I warn you that much of what I'm about to assign him as a person will sound fictional. But I believe it all to be true in my heart, that each of these statements to be true. So here's my quick hit list of 7 attributes about this honoree. First, and this one's a bit ironic, but we saw how we scrambled from the stage. Notwithstanding all of his achievements and all that Sean gives and has given to others and to this community, Sean is humble. What I mean by that and why is that ironic? Because I am certain that although Sean is deeply honored and humbled by receiving this award this evening, he would undoubtedly much rather be at the gym training clients or wrestlers than being the center of attention. Second, when I think of Sean, I think of love in action. And that action is to serve others and the larger community. That is Sean. His love and depth of giving to the Derry community is endless. Third, I promise there's only 7. Sean is someone who defines his success by service to others. This is Sean. His time, his compassion, and love of each and every one of his gym and wrestling devotees is genuine and deep. Fourth, to the core, Sean is a giver. He fundamentally believes that the more he gives to others, the more he gets back. This is Sean. Sean is forever most interested in how he can help another. And he weighs the interests and well-being of others first and foremost. Fifth, Sean is kind and compassionate, notwithstanding that schedule between here and Pittsburgh. He always has time to help a friend or even a friend of a friend. Sean operates with kindness in all that he does and fundamentally believes that no matter how small the gesture of kindness, it's never wasted time. This is Sean. Sixth, Sean has this crazy but unique gift of making every person feel special. Almost making each person feel as though they have some secret, hidden superpower. This is Sean to a T. I know this sounds absurd, but go watch Sean coach the kids at his gym. I do. And you will see that he makes each and every single kid feel as though there is nothing that he or she can't achieve. That's a gift. Seventh and finally, and perhaps what I see most in Sean, not on making himself first, but by helping others see and unlock their potential and to believe in their potential. So I like this. Sean's sincere commitment to leadership and community has brought positivity into many lives. It is a sincerity and authenticity that allows him to value and inspire every single person that he interacts with. Congratulations to my great friend, my little brother, Sean Horvath, on your well-deserved induction into the Derry Area Hall of Fame in recognition of your outstanding achievements in business and entrepreneurship. Your legacy of leadership will continue to inspire all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. When you think of some of the outstanding educators who helped shape students' lives over the years here at Derry area, you would certainly put our next inductee at the top of that list. For 32 years, Susanna Calvo not only taught music, but more than that, she instilled passion and discipline in every one of her students. Between choir, ensembles, and each and every one of her 26 orchestrated musicals, nobody did it better. Nobody. Other school districts would say to this day that they were envious about the musicals that Susanna produced. She had a way to get the most out of her students. She truly cared about each one of them, and it was genuine. When Susanna retired from teaching, she was still an integral part of our district as part of our foundation. She was a driving force behind the paying off of the bill for our amphitheater, which hosts so many events throughout our community. Susanna also raised thousands of dollars for Latrobe Area Hospital. She volunteered her time to be the public relations chair of the foundation while serving here on our committee. Just one little side story about Susanna, and our committee members would know this from last year. She sat in our board of administration room that was over in the administration building. And I said to her, Susanna, you are going to be a Derry Hall of Famer someday. And I know how she could be. And she pretended first that she didn't hear me because she was starting to struggle a little bit with hearing. But she heard me. And she said, you know what? I'm not going into the Hall of Fame because the Hall of Famers were the students that I taught. They were the ones that kept me into teaching. Well, Susanna, I told you I was going to put you in. And we said you were going to be put in. So tonight, we are proud to induct Susanna Calvo posthumously into the Derry Area Hall of Fame, class of 2024. Speaking in memory of Susanna this evening will be Mr. Brock Smith and Mrs. Karen Karen.
Good evening, everybody. First, I'd like to thank everybody for the recognition that is coming to Mrs. Calvo. But I'd like to thank the committee. I know that her family, my family is here, and last year at this time she sat back there in the corner watching me discuss my grandfather, and like John said, we tried last year very hard to get her in as well, and she blackballed herself. She refused to accept any kind of recognition whatsoever. So it took a long, hard struggle this past year, and on January 30th, she passed away. It was hard for us all, but I'm not here to discuss that. I'm here to discuss her legacy as being an educator here at Derry. And a few of them, Mrs. Olszewski talked about the education here that people receive at Derry. It is truly remarkable when you think of a small community school like ours and all the people that are out there impacting and affecting the lives of people that we are recognizing now. And that continues on, and how that just geometrically unfolds and continues to affect the next generation and the generation after. So I'm very proud to follow in the steps of my grandfather and teach. And not my grandmother, but my grandmother passed away in 1983, but she became my grandmother, and it filled a very, very big role and a void in my life. So a few things. Anybody that attended Derry knows that the tradition here of music is remarkable. It's bar none. There's no second fiddle here. She taught from 1963 to 1995. She was in charge of the women's chorus, the choir, ensemble, both junior and senior ensemble. She did stuff for graduation, but her claim to fame are obviously the musicals that are legendary here and continue to unfold today, as is evident by this young lady over here who's going to talk after me. The energy and enthusiasm that she had for music is truly amazing. And I vividly remember all the effort and the painstaking amount of time that she would put into planning and preparing and doing everything that required her attention. And she was an autocrat basically. She wanted attention to every detail. She was a student of practice makes permanent. The more you do it, the more permanent it becomes. Mr. Shaw will appreciate that. Practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. Well, Mrs. Calvo wanted to make things very permanently perfect as best she could, so we would do things over and over and over and over again, whether it was singing in front of the choir or coming here on stage where I had to practice a line 13 times in a row, and I still didn't get it right, and she would just yell at me and scream at me. It was just how I inflected something. My acting career took place from 1988 to 1990. My first role was a tap dancer here in 42nd Street. Then a year after that in The Wizard of Oz, because I have a little bit of a size advantage, I got to carry Dorothy around the entire auditorium. And then for some reason they decided they were going to build a really heavy-duty car here, and they gave me the role of Kaniki. Well, I auditioned, they didn't give it to me, I had to earn it. But I got to dance on the car for Grease and say, "Hit me from Kaniki," and I like to say that line, and it's one of those claims to fame I always remember. But living through it and watching other students do this year in and year out, and the energy that takes place here during that moment when they start to audition and they learn that they got this role, and then they start to practice rehearse, whether it's the smallest of character or the leads or the pit band, all the amount of sheer effort that goes into the student involvement here. When you think back from 1963 to 1995, the amount of student involvement that Susanna had here at this school it blows my mind. You had 150, 200 kids here involved in it. I'm talking, you had volleyball players, you had basketball players, you had baseball players, you had football players, and they were just in the background. She would go up and say, "You're going to be on the stage, you're going to be on the stage, you're going to be here," and they would say, "Yes, we'll do it." Of course, we had to work around practices. Mr. Shaw was very kind to let us do that too. But her attention to detail and everything that she did is that thing that I remember most about her. Her community involvement here, obviously that's legendary. Her willpower to make things happen. And the ability to not say no to Mrs. Calvo, it goes without saying. I think that we can all safely fondly remember just some kind of the things that she would have done for any student. But she would take her time and make sure that everybody was the best version of themselves that they possibly could be. So I'm going to close here real quick. To everyone who had the honor of being taught by Mrs. Calvo, you all know that she is looking down here right now and saying, "Why are they making such a big fuss about this?" She exemplified what a great, charismatic teacher should strive to be. I try to do that every day, and I fail often, but every day I fail, I get back up and do more. The attention to detail, practicing until it became exactly what it needed to be. She would always go home and, like I said before, see how it could become even better, practicing to make it more permanent. The sheer amount of people who tried to replace her in this district is unreal. One person that did as much as she has done for this district, and that is not even talking about everything that she did for music. So all that on top of it just being the fact that I got to see it as a student, and I got to see it as her grandson. I'm very honored, privileged to accept this award, and I know that when any of us get a chance, we should all sing a little louder and let the heavens know that we miss you. We remember you, and we will always love you. You left an impression that will live on forever. Thank you.
Rock, paper, scissors in the hallway to see who was going to go first. And we didn't talk to each other ahead of time about what we were going to say, so some of it might be a little bit duplicated. Anyway, in 1960, a student teacher from IUP came to student teach at Derry area under my grandma, Ruby Marple, who was currently the high school music teacher. And believe it or not, in 1960, often, or even prior to that, the cooperating teachers would offer a place for the student teachers to stay. So my mom told me that student teachers would often stay at my grandma's house whenever it was their turn to do their student teaching, so they had to drive back and forth. I was a cooperating teacher probably 20 times in my time there. I never once offered the student teachers to stay at my house. I can't even imagine that. But anyway, Susanna took her up on that, and not only did she stay for student teaching, she stayed there for 13 years. So she was living at my grandparents' house for about the first 10 years of my life. So I knew her really well, and we would come home to Ohio. I lived in Ohio at the time. We would come to Pennsylvania. I always called it home, and being my home. We would come to Derry to visit, and I can remember waking up on Saturday mornings. Me and my brothers and sister would be upstairs, and we would hear it vocalizing in the living room because she was getting ready to teach lessons. This big voice, just whoa, whoa. We would just giggle and laugh. I didn't know what that was. That's a very fond memory. But my mom told me that when Susanna student taught here, it was in the fall, and then there was a teacher in Derry that needed to take a leave of absence in the spring, so Susanna delayed her graduation until the end of the summer so she could stay and take over that position for the rest of the school year. And eventually she was hired here in 1963, and my grandma obviously could see the potential in Susanna, so in the fall of 1969, she took a position in the English department so that Susanna could take over the high school because she was really itching to do that, and it was definitely a good decision. So then she went on to do approximately 25 musicals in comp. Until 1963, we did operettas here because you really couldn't get the rights to do the musicals. So 1963 was the first one, and my grandma was still directing then, and up through 1969, and then Susanna took over in 1970. But I'm sure it was a package deal all the way along, one learning from the other. One thing that I really like is when Susanna took over the high school program, she continued to take busloads of kids to New York City in the springtime. That's one of my favorite memories in high school, was getting to go to New York City with the choir. For many years, she ran a summer theater program to instill an interest in the theater with the younger children, and they called it cricket theater. And the older students got to help with that in the summertime. We got to do that one summer. It was really fun. She was the secretary and treasurer of the WCBA for 3 decades. Nobody could do it better, so she just kept doing it. It was great. She started the junior and senior ensemble program here. Prior to that, they had usually a women's trio or a men's trio that would go out into the community to perform. But the junior and senior ensembles, that was a new thing. It was kind of Derry's version of the show choir. In Christmas season and in May, during mother-daughter banquet sort of season, they would go out into the community and provide music for 25, 30 performances in the season. A great civic outreach for the community, representing the Derry School District as ambassadors in the community. Just skip ahead, I jumped around here. I can tell you that when I was hired at Derry in 1993, she was my mentor, and it was a pretty big class of new teachers that year. So we had our induction meeting in the Odeon, so 30 people in there, and each mentor was asked to share something unique about their inductee. So she stood up and said, well, I used to change her diapers. True story. And it was that sense of humor and that laugh that you can't forget. She had just such a great, great laugh. She was an avid reader. She didn't waste any time. She just knew a lot of stuff. I never would see her without a little spiral notebook because she would keep all the details of the day in the notebook. And that made it so she didn't have to waste any memory space in her mind for the details. That was in the book. Because the details in her mind were about the people. She was as efficient as any person I've ever known. And she had, like I said, the notebook, because that way she was maximized the space in her memory for people. She commanded respect and demanded excellence, but it was nothing less than what she expected of herself. She didn't just know your name, she knew your history. And if she saw you years later, she still remembered that history. And that's, even if she didn't teach you, she still, when she would sit out here and sell tickets to the community for years after she stopped directing the musicals, and that was just an impact. She didn't just teach the person, she knew the person. And she didn't just teach the subject, she taught the student. My last paragraph, the impact that she has left on the entire area is so far-reaching there's really no way to measure it. As for me, I will never stop trying to make her proud. Thank you.
Our next inductee was in the Derry area class of 1982. In 2016, Kathy Short-Tarr fell in love with hiking while exploring the Whites in Shelburne, New Hampshire. Her love for the Pacific Crest Trail and long-distance trails inspired her to look for a missing hiker by the name of Chris Fowler. While on that search mission, Kathy came across a flyer for another missing hiker. His name was David O'Sullivan. At that point, her mission became clear. In 2020, Kathy established the Fowler O'Sullivan Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping families of missing hikers. Since then, Kathy has assembled a variety of teams and groups, including a drone team of pilots who fly grids while taking images, all to help the grieving families of the lost hikers. Her work inspired prolific writer Andrea Langford to write a book entitled Trail of the Lost. It's back on the table here this evening. I'll put it back there. Incredible book. It became a New York Times bestseller. Andrea talks about Kathy and her journey in the book. Her tireless efforts are a symbol of her character and love for helping people in need. The stories are endless. Tonight we are proud to present Kathy Short-Tarr in the category of humanitarian for induction into the 2024 Derry Area Hall of Fame.
First of all, I want to say I am in awe and actually honored to be here tonight with all the other amazing people who have been inducted here tonight. I am mostly on the West Coast. I've been traveling extensively, but when I come back to Derry, I feel like I'm home. My life changed in many ways all throughout my life, like most of us. And I never thought I would be searching for missing hikers. But within my organization, we take care of families. We have a peer support group to help them. We educate hikers so that they don't go missing and we don't have to look for them. And I do it because I have an amazing team around me that helps me and helps the families. Families are number one when we're out there. It was very sad. I actually found myself working with sheriffs, search and rescue, deputies, and unfortunately coroners. And families will always hold out hope until they hear differently. And it's never any easier to tell them we have found your loved one and he or she is deceased. It is something that is needed in the hiking community. Search and rescue is there to rescue a person, and we always hope that is the case. But when search and rescue is called out by the sheriff, the family has no one to reach out to. And that's where I started the foundation, the Alumni Foundation. We have been able to bring loved ones home to their loved ones, and that means everything to me. It's bittersweet, but it's what I do now, and that'll be my legacy for my family. And I guess that's it. That's why I'm here tonight. I really appreciate everyone who's here and all the other people that's here tonight with me. Thank you so much. I love Derry, love coming back here, and thank you.
So before we started this evening, Mr. Roble, who does a great job with our auditorium and our music department and our high school marching band, we were out here preparing for tonight, doing some things. I was kind of back here in the dark, and all of a sudden, a dog came flying on the stage and scared the living Jesus out of me. And when the dog came on the stage, just looked at me, looked back, and I saw a familiar face. Not that I ever met him before, but I've heard so much about him. And so I saw that face, I knew exactly who it was. And that's our next inductee. He's in the front row. That's 1960 grad, Barry Gazdick. He grew up in Loyal, Hannah. He ran track. He played football in high school. He's a lieutenant colonel. He went on to attend Indiana State College, now known as IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And while there, he was a member of the Army ROTC program. He also was a standout football, track, and wrestling participant at IUP and was named Athlete of the Year. Now, his name can be found in 3 prestigious IUP Hall of Fames. They include Athletics, ROTC, and Distinguished Alumni, among his other prestigious accomplishments. He went on to join the Army, where he would spend the next 28 years. His first assignment was Germany during the Cold War period. He had other peacetime assignments in Hawaii, Panama, Alaska, and Korea. Lieutenant Colonel Gazdick was also a leadership instructor at Fort Benning, Georgia. His most noteworthy 2 tours of duty were in Vietnam, where his extraordinary bravery under intense enemy fire, he was awarded the Army's Distinguished Service Cross. Lieutenant Gazdick was also awarded 2 Purple Hearts, the Silver Star, the Legion of Merit, 5 Bronze Stars, and 17 Air Medals. He retired from active duty in 1992, and he resides in Laramie, Wyoming. He continues his involvement with the military. He fights for veteran causes to this day. His family has established endowed scholarships at IUP, St. Vincent College, University of Wyoming, and Georgia State University, hoping to inspire new generations of leaders. Barry also speaks at numerous functions, including just earlier today at IUP's homecoming, talking with the university's ROTC program. For induction into the Derry Area Hall of Fame class of 2024 in the category of humanitarian, we proudly present Lieutenant Colonel Barry Gazdick.
hard to believe it used to be a 2-miler with my slow walk there, but that happens. Mr. Chairman, Hall of Fame Committee, fellow inductees, family and friends, Barry Gazik, 1960 alum. Thank you for your consideration and honor me and my brother Walter for induction into the Derry Area High School Hall of Fame. It's if you live long enough, you won't have any enemies, and sooner or later you'll be put in for some type of award. Hopefully this is not a reason for this occasion. I'd like to take a moment to remember our deceased classmates and teachers who helped mold our lives. We cherish their wisdom and counsel. We miss them. It's a great feeling to be back in Derry area. I have not been back to this high school since I graduated in 1960. I'm happy to report that I've noticed many improvements since then, obviously. After graduation, I went on to college at ISC, which is now IUP. And upon graduation, was commissioned a second lieutenant in the Infantry Army, and was immediately sent to active duty in Europe. This was a period of tension, uncertainty, and Cold War throughout. I got to experience some of that tension starting in 1964 by being both with the 1st Battalion, 54th Infantry Mechanized 4th Armored Division in Germany, which is up near the East German-Czech border during the Cold War. I served 2 tours duty with the 4th Battalion, 21st Infantry, with the 11th Light Infantry Brigade Jungle Warriors in Vietnam, and was wounded twice in combat. I was both an infantry company commander, my first tour and second tour, flew in helicopters, it's a Yo-6 Cayuse low light observation helicopter. It was a base defense commander of the Night Corps, which is in the northern part of South Vietnam. I flew in over 180 combat missions as an aerial observer, being shot down twice. And I was also a base defense commander, brigade-sized fire base with over 3,000 combat troops. 2 sergeants and I controlled the battle if we got attacked at night, with all our support troops and firepower available. What an experience to have as a young captain. What an early lesson to learn. Going is going to be tough, and you have to be tougher. I always kept that in mind. President Teddy Roosevelt stated in 1919 in the speech in Paris, France, when you're a man in the arena, you're no longer a spectator. I soon found that out. What a way to experience life, reality, mature, and hopefully, thankfully, survive. I'd like to now reflect on some of my experience in the Derry area in my formative years. What it's an experience to be brought up and educated in the Pennsylvania public school system that imbued in me knowledge, value, accountability, friendships that helped shape my character and helped carry me throughout my life's journey. The journey, which is not over yet, was filled with some very tough choices, experiences, some failures, but many successes, and exposed me to worldwide travel, friendships, and adventure. Being born and raised in a small farm in Loyalhanna, Pennsylvania, and having a morning paper out with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, instilled in me a sense of responsibility, accountability, showing up 6 mornings a week at 5 a.m., full papers and deliver them before school for 9 years, riding a bike for almost 10 miles each day in all kinds of weather, delivering papers, collecting money, turning in each month. It was almost like being constantly audited. I was being paid 2 cents a paper and learned quickly not to make mistakes, because if you did, money came out of your pocket. Other jobs my brother and I had were being shoeshine boys in Latrobe in the shoeshine parlor, getting 5 cents out of each 15-cent shine, sharing Christmas trees, getting 1 cent for each tree. We shared from 1 to 3 feet, 2 cents for trees 4 to 6 feet, and 3 cents for trees over 6 feet. Sometimes we camped out in these tree plots on strip mines be able to share more trees from light to dark. Also did many odd jobs like cutting lawns for $1, helping my dad haul, deliver coal, helping the family with janitorial work at the Loyal grade school, and helping neighbors. These chores are all free gratis. That was my contribution as a kid for room and board that I later figured out. Instilled in our family was the mantra of respect and love for parents, family, teachers, neighbors, and discipline was understood and never an issue. Boy Scouts and Scouting was a follow-on experience that reinforced what I had learned at home and in school. It was an opportunity to further develop my knowledge, skills, teamwork, camaraderie, and appreciation for community service and how to improve someone's quality of life, to include our own. My brother Walter and I are very competitive, whether it be Little League, baseball, we were both Little League All-Stars, Scouting, where we were both Eagle Scouts, getting commissioned as second lieutenants from Army ROTC and IUP, where we were both distinguished military graduates. Walt then went on to a career in teaching after college. I remained in the military. For those born between 1926 and 1965, those were some of the best years to be born in our history. We got to experience it all. Thank God for all the times, the adventures, and technology developed during that period. Generation after generation rarely experienced what we did. What a generation we all turned out to be. My older sister Frances, brother Walter, and I were all born at home. My two younger sisters, Debbie and Kathy, were born in a hospital. We survived by being born at home with the help of midwives, mothers who may have taken aspirin, ate blue cheese dressing, tuna from a can. Didn't get tested for diabetes. Riding in the back of a pickup truck on a warm day was always a special treat. We drank water from garden hoses, not from a bottle. We shared one soft drink with 4 friends, one bottle, as I mentioned, and actually no one died from this. We ate cupcakes, white bread, real butter, and bacon. We drank Kool-Aid made with real white sugar. We were not overweight. Why? Because we were outside playing, that's why. We leave home in the morning, play all day, and return in the evening, and we're all accounted for it okay. We're just free-range kids, exercising and exploring our independence, its limits, and learning from it. We spend hours building tree houses, rafts, skis from barrel slaves, toboggans from pieces of corrugated tin, golf carts, straps, and then ride them downhill only to find out we forgot about the brakes. After running into the bushes a few times, I learned to solve that. We didn't have any PlayStations, Nintendo, Xboxes. There were no video games, no 150 channels on cable, no video movies or DVDs, no surround sound or CDs, no cell or iPhones, no personal computers, no internet, no chat rooms, only study halls at high school, right in my home. We had friends, but we had to go out and find them. We played softball in the cow pasture with the neighborhood kids. Hide and seek the cowboys and Indians. We fell out of trees, got cut, broke bones, lost teeth. There were no lawsuits for these accidents. After dark, we played checkers, chess, cards, Monopoly, and other board games. We would get an occasional spanking with wooden spoons, switches, ping pong paddles, or fly sweaters. And no one would call child services or report abuse because there probably wasn't any. Just a hard lesson in discipline. We ate worms and mud pies made of dirt, and worms will not live in us forever. We were given BB guns on our 10th birthday, rifles on our 22nd, rode horses made of games of sticks and tennis balls. And although we were told it would happen, we didn't put out many eyes. We rode bikes or walked to a friend's house, knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, or just walked in, talked. Sports teams had tryouts. Not everyone made the team. Those who did not had to learn to deal with disappointment. Add to that. Our family has always tried to give back to Derry area through community service, and future students with our family endowed scholarships available in the fields of nursing, engineering, mathematics, science, fine arts, music, chemistry, and biology. These scholarships have been and will be available in perpetuity for any who apply at St. Vincent College, Indiana, and the University of Pennsylvania. Finally, these aforementioned generations have produced some of the best risk takers, problem solvers, and mentors we have ever seen. The past 60 to 85 years have been an explosion in innovation, robotics, artificial intelligence, space travel and exploration, as well as many new and futuristic ideas. We've all had the opportunity, the freedom of failure, the hope of success, and the responsibility to have learned how to deal with it all. So, if you were born during this noteworthy period, learn from it. Congratulations. Thank you again for this honor. And finally, I'd like to thank Don and Jan Smith for their nomination and all their hard work on preparing the Hall of Fame packets. Walter and me plan not to wait another 64 years to visit high school again. And I'd like to say it's great to see Ed, my nephew, and his wife, Randy, make this event too. So thank you very much, and thanks for your attention. God bless.
Our next inductee had a storied career as a teacher, musician, philanthropist, and Civil War reenactor. While attending Derry area, Walter Bud Gaston, who grew up in Louisiana, Barry mentioned, was an Eagle Scout gaining the highest honors possible. He was devoted to music and earned both the John Philip Sousa Award honoring the top student in school band. He also received the Orion for musical excellence. Walter attended IUP and was involved in the band and the Army ROTC, where he was second in command for over 1,000 cadets. He graduated in 1963 with a bachelor's degree in chemistry, biology, and education. In July of 1964, Walter joined the Army Quartermaster Corps as first lieutenant. His tours of duty included Fort Lee, Virginia, and commanding officer in Seoul, Korea. After being discharged in July of 1996, Walter spent his next 25 years as an educator at the Laurel Valley and Ligonier school districts. He taught math, biology, and science, and was well respected by his students and colleagues. Walter was also an avid marathon runner, so it was not surprising he was also an assistant track coach as well. Because of his love for music and fascination with Civil War, Walter organized and created his own band. He played harmonica, trumpet, tin flute, and dulcimer. He performed ballads and folk tunes for local senior centers and hospitals, and he reenacted battles of Civil War in several different states, including Gettysburg and Petersburg. Fort Ligonier days were also a must for Walter. Unfortunately, complications of cancer took Walter's life way too early at the age of 63. Tonight, his sister Deborah, along with longtime family friend Don Smith, will speak in his memory. For posthumous induction into the 2024 Derry Area Hall of Fame, we present Walter Bud Gaston.
and this, very stage musicals went on. I had Susanna Jones as a teacher in junior high. I played clarinet, and also Bruna Conte for biology. So it's like being at the Academy Awards with all this great group of people who were inductees. I'm going to pull this closer so you can hear me more clearly. I'm having allergy issues. But I would like to say that I'm going to share some memories of my brother, Walt, and a lot of it will overlap with my brother Derry because they did so much together. And it's what I say about Walt probably is true of Derry as well. My family there were 9 members of my family that were educated at Derry Area High School and graduated. The first was my mother, Eleanor, who was she was in the class with Ruby Marble, and she affectionately referred to how well she played violin. And it was from her that we inherited our love of learning. My mother was an avid reader and a supporter of, getting jobs with learning scholastics and whatever it was you were interested in. My brother Walt, I remember as a young kid, his Icelandic blue eyes, his Woody Woodpecker impression laugh, and how he would often, tease and joke. So but along with that, he was always busy singing or practicing his trumpet. He also played bugle. He and my brother Barry were involved in scouting, and I would hear stories of them competing for merit badges, and my brother Walt would run in and share the fact that he just got a merit badge before my other brother would find out about it. So that healthy competition really sparked their drive to become Eagle Scouts. And I read somewhere in just random reading that really only 4% of Scouts become Eagle Scouts. And when they were involved, I think it was a golden age of Scouting because, like so many things, there's been a decline, in that type of interest. But Girl Scouts are on the rise, I understand. Walt did everything. Well, first of all, he was second in birth order. He was known affectionately by the family as Bud. Community people and others called him Walter or Walt, and his classmates referred to him as Goose. So he had many names, but when those names came up, we all knew who was being referred to. My brother Walt had a real passion for learning, and that was included academics first and foremost. He was a scholar in the National Honor Society when he was in school. He also loved music. It was a rite of passage in the Gassick family to study piano. So we all had to learn at a young age, and it was a great basis for other musical endeavors, as well as a discipline to learn to sit down and practice. And sitting down and putting in that time certainly was more appealing than going out in the garden and picking rocks for a couple hours. We lived on a small farm and had acres of crops growing, so I think that really inspired not only us to help out in those chores, but continue with for musical endeavors as well. Walt was a musician, he was a scholar, and he was an athlete. He and my brother Barry were on rival baseball teams. Barry was a catcher and Walt was a pitcher. Later, Barry went on in high school to play sports, and my brother remained active in other activities. And he took that later on, developed the skill as a runner and got involved as a track coach and went on from there. When Walt enrolled in IU, was then, it's now IUP, but it was Indiana State Teachers College. He was involved in the ROTC and then went overseas for as a second lieutenant for his tour. And I remember both Barry and Walt saying to me if I were interested in furthering my education, they would help finance it. Now, our family, as I mentioned, we had 9 family members graduate from Derry. It was not the Marvel family, but I'll tell you what, I grew up with a lot of heroes. And those were, among them were my sister Fran, my brothers Walt and Barry. They were my first formative teachers, being older siblings. And my parents being busy working, we learned much from them. And they kind of, passed on their knowledge and took care of us. And, we learned the ins and outs of what to do and not do. Some of my fond memories growing up was our Saturday trips to Latrobe on their bicycles. There were the local theaters in Latrobe, the Madison and the Olympic had cartoon extravaganzas on Saturday afternoon. So my younger sister Pat and I would ride on the handlebars of each respective brother's bicycle and have a heyday of cartoon enjoyment on the Saturday. And so they were just fun memories. Those theaters don't exist anymore like so many other things. When Walt returned from his tour of duty, he was started his teaching in Laurel Valley High School while working on his master's degree. I was a college student shortly afterwards, but I remember him coming to my high school graduation. And when I started in college, my brother was teaching and working on his master's degree. And we graduated, he getting his master's in 1971, and I received my degree from IUP. So Barry, Walt, and I are all IUP alumni. Walt went on, and he was a great mentor. We were both in the teaching profession. When I graduated, I took a position in Eastern Pennsylvania, and he coached me on things, the ins and outs of education, and also encouraged me to get involved in my teaching unit, which I took seriously, and I did become involved. He was, as a high school student, he was always an avid and very accomplished musician. So he kept that going along with his study in the sciences and his teaching. Some things about my brother that are not in his biography in front of you is that when he was a teacher, he gave countless hours tutoring students that had difficulty. He had a love of learning, and he also, I think, was challenged to help students that struggled. And there's just something about working with somebody who has difficulty and suddenly you see the spark. That's like one of those each of us to use that to inspire someone to shed light on those dark places. And I believe that was what my brother was motivated by and what he emulated when he reached out to students to help them. And he was that way in scouting. It was a scoutmaster. And they did hikes on the part of the forest trail, did overnight campouts. So he shared, along with his teaching as a biochem teacher, he shared his love of the outdoors and his knowledge of camping and hiking trails and looking for signs identifying bird calls and trails, what animal may have made that footprint. And he has on his bucket list, which he never got to do, was to, when he retired, become a guard in the national parks. He had to spend the time touring with people and, guiding them through. He did have a lifetime membership in the national parks, and one of my fond memories of my brother Paul was that I got to do a cross-country camp with him, and we visited about 8 national parks, and we did it the old-school way. My brother was a very skilled putting up tents, and he got us, being in the Army, he got us all on board to help pitch the tent. He set up the Coleman stove. With the groceries we bought, each of us had a job getting breakfast ready and then clean up. Then we packed on and went to our next destination. And that summer, 2 weeks, we visited some of the most memorable parks. One of the most memorable was Carlsbad seeing the night flight of the bats. It seemed like there were millions of them flying on, and hawks were swooping in, caught in midair, and it was really something to marvel. Another was past Carlsbad Cavern, the Grand Canyon, where my late brother did a hike, from a rim-to-rim hike, the South Kaibab to the North Rim. And that people to do that, the avid hikers, it's like it would be a week excursion for experienced hikers, or certainly a couple of days, and usually with a group, because it's treacherous. You have to do your homework. My brother Wall was a planner. He went the nth degree to make sure all the details were covered. And so he was being with his Boy Scout honor motto. He was always prepared for anything that might come up. Another trip I remember was when we went to the Yucatan, Cancun, Mexico. It was with my son and my niece, Sasha, who's here tonight. She was like, I think 10 years old or 11, and we spent a week in Cancun, walked all over Cancun, and I had to run to keep up with my brother. He was usually training for his next race. By the end of the week, I was in great shape. My breathing got on track, and then it was time to come home. But that was revisiting the pyramids, and then you could visit Mexico. It was safe, and when I think back, those were such great memories. And if trips are all well planned today, you can still do it safely, I'm sure. But we just did it. The 4 of us, walked across the border in Nogales and spent the day, and then came back. And we went across the northern ride into Wyoming. Derry was in Washington training troops. And so we went down the Continental Divide and, visited the southern tier, and then came back east through Missouri and visited the Arch in St. Louis. At that time, you would go up in an elevator and look at the Arch, and look at the river. I don't think you can go in the Arch. Now I believe like the Statue of Liberty, it's been closed close for both of my brothers. When my late husband was ill, they came to visit and spend time visiting. And my brother Walt stayed an extra week because he was worried how I would handle it. And he would, fondly talk to me about how certain things would remind me of, my late husband and what I should do. And I just look back now and just also at the graveside service. He was an accomplished Irish whistle player. He studied with Jody Madden for a workshop in West Virginia. He had a workshop when he was one of the workshop attendees, and she won. She was like the only American to win the whistle as a whistler in Ireland. I mean, that's a great competition. But he commented on what a character she was and what a talented musician. He would walk around and play for hours. The Irish whistle and the banjo and the Appalachian Mountain Dulcimer. He played beautifully. And that was one of the instruments that was gifted to my family. We were all singers and musicians because that was, as I mentioned, to write a passage, there was also a love. Music is a skill and it activates the right brain as far as the aesthetics and the life as well as far as conning and the reading aspect. So it enhances knowledge all around. So when we were doing those things, okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep this brief, but there's just so much, and I do intend to write a book with my family memories, but I'm not going to do it tonight. But I will just end with saying that I felt really blessed to be part of a family where we were close and everybody had everybody's back, and to see what individuals, my brothers and my sisters set the bar high. So when I came along, I had to find my niche. And my sister Kat and I were the last fourth and fifth in birth order, and they were great mentors and teachers. And I just want to say, for Derry area, two of my former teachers, I already mentioned are inducted tonight, so it's been a great night. Thank you for your patience, for your attention. God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you.
Can you hear me? I want you to meet John Goldfinger. I'll make this nice and short. I'll be nice. My name's Don Smith. I'm originally from Grayville, also known as Grayville City. Okay, just a couple quick stories. I met the Gasnick boys in 1953 in Little Hannah. And I knew Walter as Goose, and he was a fellow that I can always say I knew somebody that talked to the animals. That was Walter. He could talk to every animal, and he could just imitate them to the best. And that was Walter. Walter and I, in May of, and this is bringing back a lot of memories, because in May of 1955, I gave a speech at 8th grade commencement, and so did Walter. He was representing Mohana, I was representing Grayville. I also gave a speech in May of 1959
for the class of '59 when I graduated from Derry. And this is 65 years celebrating our 65th class reunion, which we had in August 17th. And so 65 years, and now here I am. I was on the stage at the auditorium in 55, 59, and now 65 years later. Hell, I must be a slow learner. I haven't gone anyplace but I'm back on the stage. Well, a couple of things I do want to tell you. Bowser mentioned that his mom, his mother, was and dad was a janitor at the Ohana school, grade school. And I can remember vividly what she did to me, or what I did to her. And what we would do at 3:30 in the afternoon, we would leave the room, and I was always in the back, and the coal stove was back here. And all the other guys, and I was small, and all the other guys would stand up in front of me. And I would take my crayons and put them on top of the coal stove. And then they would just start smelling and burning. And by the time we got to the door, and I won't forget, Mrs. Gassick come over and she goes, "Don, this is the second time. One more time, I'm going to tell the teachers on that." And I remember that distinctly. So, but anyway, my wife, I want to thank my wife, whom I met 65 years ago, so 65 is a good number. And she graduated from Latrobe at 60. I want to thank her for helping me and then doing the research on the Gassick. And you really have to dig down in, and their parents taught all of the Gassicks. Family, religion, and education. They all worked hard, and they all were educated. And I do want to thank John Goldfinger Flickinger for his help, and then all the committee members. Thank you for considering the induction of the Gassick boys. But the Gassick family is a family. Thank you. One other item. I want to thank Sally Payne Sweeney and her boy Matt for coming. And I think everybody knows who Sally Payne and Matt Sweeney are. Okay? Thank you.
Our next inductee is one of the most decorated athletes not only in the history of Derry area, but also the state of Pennsylvania and nationally. I'm talking about three-time PIAA wrestling champion Troy Dolan. A 2007 graduate, Troy was the epitome of hard work, dedication, and determination. The sport of wrestling, as many of us know, requires a mentality that goes above and beyond many other sports. It's one-on-one and no excuses. Troy relished in these moments as he won just about every title imaginable. After winning his third gold in 2007, he became, at the time, the only Trojan wrestler with multiple state crowns. Troy was a four-time section and WPIAL champ, a four-time Southwest region qualifier, and a three-time champion, to go with being a four-time PIAA qualifier. Following his senior season, he was ranked #1 nationally and compiled a school record 170 wins against just 9 losses. His wrestling career continued to the University of Missouri, as well as stops at Lock Haven University and UPJ. He is now the head wrestling coach here at his alma mater and was named Westmoreland County Coach of the Year this past season as he continues to give back and teach the sport to the current generation of Trojan grapplers. For induction into the Derry Area Hall of Fame class of 2024 in the category of Athletic Individual, we present Troy Dolan.
Thank you. I just want to say a quick thanks to all the teachers and staff who helped me over the years to get to where I was at. I want to say thanks to my parents for being here tonight, my wife Kirsty, my daughter Lydia. Thanks to Flick and all the people who voted me onto the Production Hall of Fame. And I just hope everyone can make it out this year for a wrestling match. So I hope to see you guys at home. Thank you.
That's as fast as he used to pin his opponents, by the way. True. Our next inductee really does not need much introduction. In fact, it was hard to decide whether he should go into the Hall of Fame in the Lifetime Achievement or Athletic Coach category. It really was. The reason for that thinking is because Carl Albaugh poured his heart and soul into the district for 31 years as a coach, teacher, and administrator. He still shares in responsibilities with the Derry Area Foundation and our committee. Coach Albaugh's track teams won 78 meets in his tenure to only 19 defeats. He coached 3 PIAA champions, one in Rich Petrunic, a Hall of Famer from last year's inaugural class, and another in Vince Skillings, who will be inducted a little bit later. A third in David Clayton, who is a near future Hall of Famer. Carl also walked the sidelines of the gridiron as a first assistant and defensive coordinator to Joe Bellissimo's 1974 Foothills Conference Championship team, this is the 50th celebration year of that 74 championship. And Coach Albaugh also won a Keystone Conference title in 1983 as the head football coach. He truly bleeds the blue and gold, and it was a pleasure getting to sit down with him and learn so much about Derry athletics. It truly was, Coach. And he has some great memories and stories. I'm sure we'll give a couple now. A great coach and even a better person. In the category of athletic coach, we are proud to announce Carl Albaugh into the inaugural class of the 2024 Derry Area Hall of Fame.
First thing I'd like to do is say thank you to this man who took over our program when the elder retired last year. So he has done a super great job. I'll try to speed this up a little bit. First of all, I was unique in one thing, and I'm not bragging. And that thing I was unique in was when the 2 schools joined and became an area. I put my 9th grade year into Derry Township. I put my 10th, 11th, and 12th year into Derry Borough, and I came back and worked over 60 years in Derry area. So I had all 3, Borough, Township, and area. Tonight, I coach both football and track. But I think I'm going to speak about the track program only tonight. We had a couple of conference football teams, but we had some losing seasons too. So I'm going to ask right now, if I have any football or track assistants, please stand. I want my family to stand. And my niece and nephew, and our husband. I think that we have to somehow, some way, beat this thing into something. And I think we'll have to work on that. But anyway, I want to give you one little thing that happened to me. My freshman year was at Derry Township, as I said. My sophomore, junior, and senior year was at Derry Borough. Derry Borough and Derry Township, we had a couple successful years of football. But many more than that in track and field. And that's what I'm going to cover tonight. The track teams. Going back to Derry Township, I ran track as a freshman with some friends. My sophomore, junior, and senior year was taken into the borough, and I ran against those same people I ran with. And it was a little bit different back in those days. But that's what they did. They took Ridge Avenue and Owens Avenue into the borough, and we went to the borough, instead of the township that year. I would like right now to have any of my football or track assistant coaches stand up right now. We have any of them at all? Nope. All right. It's been a long trip for me. I've spent 32 years in the Derry area school district, and I became the first business manager in the school district. And my last 9 years before I retired, I was the business manager in the school district. Athletically, Derry Township was much better than Derry Borough and much bigger in football. But Derry Borough handled themselves very well in basketball against the township. And both of them had pretty decent track teams. So I am going to stop tonight and just say thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. And I love all the Derry Township, Derry Borough people. Thank you.
Our next inductee holds the distinction of being a member of the first organized Derry Township High School football team as a sophomore. He went on to play his college football at Villanova University, where he had an outstanding career and was one of the only 4 sophomores who earned a varsity letter. After playing semi-pro football for the New Derry Tigers, Bruno landed a job as a grade school teacher at Derry Township. He taught biology and general science at the high school, and he served as a principal. Bruno was also a very successful football and track coach. He led his Derry Township Eagles track team to consecutive titles in 1944, 45, and 46. He earned several coaching accolades along that journey. In 1945, Bruno directed the Eagles football team to the WPIAL Class A championship game against Dormont. He also guided them to a Westmoreland County championship in 1944. After the merger, Bruno continued to serve as a coach on both the track and the football staffs. Speaking tonight in memory of Bruno will be Mr. Chris Gerhard. For posthumous induction into the 2024 Derry Area Hall of Fame in the category of Athletic Coach, we present Bruno Conti.
Good evening. Bruno Robert Conti, sometimes known as V.R. Conti. And an old timer once told me his nickname is Blues because he had curly red hair in high school. Flick took half of my speech, so he had to bear with me. Bruno was the best man that I ever knew, other than my father and my 2 sons. Bruno is a loving and caring man. I can remember spending hours in the backyard at our farm. Him teaching me how to hold a football, how to pass a football. He even made sure that I had a three-point stance because he felt sure that I was going to be a lineman. My fullback. I was a fullback right now. My dad played for Bruno. He also married Bruno's daughter, my mother Peggy. But my dad told me a lot of stories about playing for him. But the one that sticks out in my head the most is Bruno took the team down into West Virginia, and I think near Charleston. They played a football game down there. And on the way back, they decided to stop at a restaurant and eat. And on that particular football team, they had a running back. His name was Chester Rice. Chester was the only black man on that team. So anyway, they got to the restaurant, walked in, everybody sat down, and the owner came over to Bruno. He said, Bruno, or Coach, he said, we don't serve his kind here. He pointed to Chester. The man that Bruno was. He said, all right, boys, everybody get back up, back on the bus, we're not welcome here. He said, if you can't serve all of us, he's not serving any of us. That's the kind of love and respect that Bruno had for his teams. So in closing, I'd like to thank the committee for inducting my grandfather into the Hall of Fame. And I have a special thanks to John Flickinger, who guided me through this phase, who guided me through this to get to where we're at tonight. Thank you.
Our next inductee is labeled by many as one of the greatest sprinters in the history of Pennsylvania high school track and field. Vince Skillings won a state track championship in the 440-yard dash during the 1977 season with a time of 47.8 seconds. That's a record that still stands today. Obviously, the state gold was the pinnacle for Vince, but he was so much more of an accomplished track star than just that feat. Between his sophomore year of 1975 through his senior year of 77, Vince won 3 silver and 1 bronze medal, 4 WPIAL championships, and was the high scorer in the 1976 meet. He was named Outstanding WPIAL and Pennsylvania Track Club Male Track Athlete of the Year in 1976, and he was one of only 2 WPIAL track athletes to be ranked nationally, the other being Tony Darden, another sprinter from Norristown High School, who bested Vince his junior year in the 220 and the 440. Darden, as some of you may know, went on to be an Olympic standout. Vince moved on to play college football at The Ohio State University under legendary coach Woody Hayes, and he earned first-team Big Ten honors his junior and senior seasons as a defensive back for the Buckeyes. He went on to a professional football career before coming back here to his roots in the Derry area to coach and mentor kids. I was one of those kids way back when Vince got out of college. We all loved Coach Vince as he used to hurdle our huddles when we played for the Derry area midget football organization. He had energy, he had passion, and he still does have that. And he'll live in the laurels of Derry athletics forever. For induction into the Derry Area Hall of Fame class of 2024 in the category of athletic individual, we present Vince Skillings.
Don't say I have the floor. I don't know if you want me to do that, but truthfully, say anything but thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, for blessing me with the talents and abilities and the persons in my life that helped get me to where I am today. Without him, I am nothing. And also, I'd like to thank God for my mother, Gladys Louise Skilling students. They say behind every great man is a great woman. My mother was a great woman, and she was very instrumental in me becoming the person I am. She taught me everything I needed to know about Jesus. And she also was an athlete herself, so when it came down to some of the things, some of the struggles that I went through, some of the things that I wasn't quite certain of as an athlete, whenever I was feeling a little bit incompetent, my mother would always encourage me. So I thank God for her. And most important thing I want to say is that without Jesus, none of us would be here. Thankfully, I thank the Hall Committee for selecting me on for this prestigious award. I got lost for words because I never thought I would be alive to see this day, or even be able to imagine myself being in anybody's Hall of Fame. Because for me, athletics was just fun. It was track for me was a hobby, and I just enjoyed running. So whenever Coach Allball, when I started running track, actually in junior Olympic stuff, I was good and I didn't even know it. And Coach Allball kind of recruited me when I got to junior high, and I was like, we'll see how that goes. If it's fun, I'll participate. But I didn't realize how much fun it would be all those years with Coach Allball. And then when it came to participating in any sport, the journey began in Brennizer when a group of guys, one guy in particular named Joe Campbell, he came to Brennizer recruiting rigid football players. And he asked me if I'd like to play it. I said, well, I asked my mom. I can't go nowhere without my mom's permission. And he talked to my mom. And at that time, I was a hemophiliac. And God blessed me and healed me of it. And that was her concern. And other than that, he said, "We'll take care of him, and we'll make a great young man out of him." And I took that to heart. And I always appreciate Coach Campbell, Dave Orlando, and other coaches, George Kales, and Ron Bollinger. Those were my first coaches. But as I progressed through high school, into junior high and high school, I ran into great coaches such as Rich Ludwig, and also Mr. Bassiano, Norm Bassiano, Mr. Shaw, and Mr. Giotto, coaches like that who instilled in me the confidence and also the wisdom and knowledge of not just how to be a great athlete, but also how to be a contributor to our society, to be a better person in our society. And I carried that with me even into my collegiate years. So everything that I am today, I owe it to God. I owe it to those coaches that he put in my life, especially Joe Bellissimo. Coach Bellissimo was like a big brother to me. He took me under his wings, and he really, in a bad time in my life, I was like really having a rough time in 7th grade. I was very, very mischievous, I'd say. I wasn't bad, I was mischievous. But Coach Bellissimo, one time I got into, it was a pretty good fight with Rick Stoner. And I threw a punch at one of the teachers. And I was in the office, and Coach Bellissimo spoke with me about my behavior. He said, I understand you're a good athlete. I said, I'm the best. I said, I'm going to play football at Penn, and I'm going to break all Tony Dorsett's records. And if I break his records, I'm going to go and break all Jim Brown's records. And he said, well, you're not going to go too far if you keep on throwing punches, if you fight all the time. He said, and I was like kind of troublesome in class, disruptive. And he told me that year that if you want to go to college, then you're going to have to do better with your your behavior, and you're going to have to do better in the classroom. I wasn't a bad student, I just was a lazy student. And so I said, well, you know, why should I have to do all that? I said, nobody here likes me anyway. And Coach Bliswell said, well, in the Bible, it says for a man to gain a friend, he must first present himself to be friendly, which I wasn't really doing that. And even though I grew up a Christian. And he said, if you would be willing to do that, because there was a lot of teachers I didn't like, but I didn't give them a reason to like me either. He said, you do that, just do that for the rest of the school year. And I promise you, if it doesn't work, if you don't start making friends, then you just go ahead and do what you do. And the first person I went to was the teacher I hated the most. And I asked her if she would help me with my math. And she said, well, yeah. And turned around, long story short. And I did that with all the teachers that I did like. And then I began to set myself friendly to even the guys, the kids that I didn't like, I knew didn't like me at all. And so I began to set myself friendly to people, and I began to make friends, and I kind of liked it. And from that point on, you know, that was the turning point for me. I don't believe I would be standing here before you now if it wasn't for that speech that Coach Bliswell made. You know, and I'm so thankful to him for that. I owe a lot to Coach Alumni because track is what really got me to college. You know, when you run a 9,700 and 47.8 for 40, people take note of that. Coach Bliswell knew George Chung. He introduced me to George, but what was most impressive to Coach Hayes was that I was so fast and I didn't miss tackles. So when Coach Hayes came and visited, I was so proud of him that he would come to the school. I was really proud to be a representative of the Derry area in both football and in track. So everything I did it for you. Because whenever I went to Ohio State, I had no reason, I didn't know who Michigan was. I didn't have any history, I didn't have any history with him, so big deal. It's another game. Every game, I didn't have a reason to be psyched up. But when I realized that we were playing on national or regional television, I was like, wait a minute, if I make a fool out of myself out here, I'm going to embarrass my hometown folks. And so I didn't have, that became my motivating factor. If I was going to do anything, I'm going to make Derry look good. I'm going to make Brandeis look good. I'm going to put us on the map. You know, whenever people hear my name, they're going to think of Derry, they're going to think of Brandeis. And that is why I'm standing here today, because you guys motivated me to be the best I can be. Thank you very much.
All of us, oh, that's hot, hot mic. Sorry, Mr. Roper. You set me up for that, I know that. All of us, if not most of us, follow Derry area sports, right? As alumni. We are well aware of the strength of our boys volleyball program. In our first Hall of Fame class of 2023, you have Coach Rich Shaw, who in 31 years of coaching amassed over 400 wins, 3 PIAA gold medals, a WPIAL championship, and 12 section titles. So it's not surprising that tonight we honor 2 more of those outstanding boys volleyball teams. Tonight we honor the state runner-up team of 1987, who after losing 5 solid seniors from the state title team the year prior, continue to improve throughout the season and find their way into the title game only to come up just short of gold. But the success of the 1987 team was just a preview, was what to come in 1988, as the Trojans not only captured another state championship, but they also won their first and only WPIAL title. 2 historic seasons for this storied program. I'd like to proudly introduce head coach Rich Shaw, the Hall of Famer Rich Shaw, his assistant coaches Bucky Hall, Mark Pavlik, and some of the members of the Derry area volleyball teams of 1987 and 1988 for induction into the Derry area Hall of Fame class of 2022.
We'll try to be efficient without rushing. Come on over, guys. Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't be fast. Colonel Gazdick, my dad's weapon of choice for paddlings was the yardstick. Boy, he can make that baby sing. I want to speak briefly. Several other of these young men are going to speak. I always look for kids with a little bit of athletic ability, and I look for good young men who I knew would work, and these fellows are perfect examples of that combination of athleticism and good workers. The 1987 team, they were just tough. They were constantly fighting their way back. Twin matches. So we have 2 fellas from that team here. Not with us are Bob Rummel and Mike Shoemaker, who they have commitments with their sons in college. Bob Rummel has a mechanical engineering degree from Pitt. He works for Motorola Solutions. Mike Shoemaker has a marketing degree from Penn State, also works for Motorola Solutions. With us, the first young man, Jerry Enos. He works in sales and is accounts manager for Moswell Electrical Supply. And before we move on from that, I'm going to try to save a few words. If you were a manager for one of the teams, raise your hand. If you were a defensive specialist, raise your hand. If you were an outside hitter, raise your hand. If you were a middle blocker, raise your hand. If you were a setter, raise your hand. Yeah, that covers all the positions. Let's save a few words. All right, so with us is also is Frank Trenny. Frank Trenny is graduated from IUP, and if Ron Trenny's here today, I just want to remind him that Slippery Rock beat Indiana 33-32. Go Rock. Anyway, he's a retired athletic trainer, and eat your heart out, you outdoorsmen. Frank is now a fishing and hunting guide in Montana. All right, Frank, a couple of thoughts from Frank.
First off, I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank the committee for this honor. On behalf of our season, 1987 season, as Coach Shaw already mentioned, we're the most talented team. We had a lot of great people in 86 to win that title with us. But we were followed up by a great group of guys in 88 that took a little bit of time for them to kind of figure out who they were in that 87 season. We weren't very good at the beginning of the year. In fact, as a Derry group, we relished the fact that we were playing against schools like North Allegheny, Plum, Penn Hills, larger schools with better, they would consider to be better student athletes, but we weren't great at the beginning of the year. We actually lost every single game we played against Plum that year. They were ranked number 1 in the state. But Bucky reminded me of this tonight. We were the 8th seed in the Whitfields. We were not going to qualify for states. There were only 3 teams that year. But we ended up beating Plum. We were already down 2 games to none to them. And the thing I remember about that, it wasn't about the game, it was about Coach Shaw prepping us for that game. That match, he was sitting in the corner of the gym, and he was sitting there talking to us about the next night's event. And all of a sudden, out of his hands, you could just see this fluid just dropping on the floor. Apparently, the story was he was hoping to have 2 little plums in his hand, squeezing them. He couldn't find plums, so he had some grapes. And he's just squeezing them, trying to get his point across about how we were going to beat Plum the next night. So we got very fortunate. We knocked Plum off and kept them out of the state playoffs. And we went on and lost to a very good North Allegheny team that year. And a lot of those players, like the Snake Korean, Scott Shirley, Jim Shaw, the guys from North Allegheny are some of my favorite friends playing sports. So the memories of being on the volleyball program just meant everything to me, particularly as a volleyball program. So thank you.
Just a bit of volleyball history. How many are familiar with what rally scoring is in volleyball? Okay. I serve you, somebody's going to get a point. In the old days, that wasn't the case. These fellas played when it was quad A, 4A. And you had to beat the North Alleghenies, Soudertons, Central Yorks, all those schools. So we were the little guy kicking their butts. All right, so that's for the 87 season. A little bit about the guys who played in 88. It's the first time they've been together since they graduated in 88. So it's sort of nice to see them. They were good. If I look at 2 exhibition matches, 10 section matches, the WPIL playoffs, and the state playoffs, where we didn't lose a game, our record was, game-wise, was 55 and 3. That's pretty good. And our match record was 21 and 0. So they were truly state champions. I just want to mention quickly, fellas from the team that weren't here. Matt Masterocco's a dentist in South Carolina. Brett Lowry is a Carnegie Mellon grad. He's self-employed in Illinois. He tried to get into Slippery Rock and Phys Ed, but didn't make it, so he had to go to Carnegie Mellon. Ken Peak is in Atlanta. Jason Ray in Irwin. Mike Shaw is women's coach down at UNC, and they had an alumni weekend this weekend, so he couldn't get away. Next man in line, our manager, and he did the taping. He had some wonderful, spontaneous comments during matches. Darwin, thank you. Darwin Green. Next young man is Mike Gray. Mike Gray has an accounting degree. Now he's a nurse. He supervises other nurses, occupational therapists, and physical therapists. Next young man, he was a great passer. I saw him pass the ball every way possible except while standing on his head. So anyway, Steve Relic has a bachelor's degree from Pitt Greensburg, master's degree from Seton Hill, and he's now a regional supervisor in Southwest Pennsylvania for George Junior Republic. The next young man, Scott Wisniewski. He's got an associate degree from the community college. He has a BS degree in graphic design from St. Vincent. He was the assistant women's coach at St. Vincent for 17 years and started the men's program. He now works for Chorus Call in the digital closet department. And one other quick side note. We were pretty good in 1989. And we had beaten the state champions, the team that eventually became state champions, and the state runner-up. And unfortunately, Scott came down with a back injury in the WPL quarterfinals. I wish we had had a chance to see it, to play it. Who knows what would have happened. The next young man, Mark Pavlik, was a volunteer assistant for 3 years. We learned from him. Hope he learned a little bit from us. He has a ceramic engineering degree, but he saw the light. He got into volleyball. He's been the head men's coach at Penn State for the last 30 years. So he's just going to make it fairly good.
Here with the guy that said I majored in ceramic science and engineering, and that was just toilet bowls and ashtrays. But this group was really special. I look at it as a young coach. The biggest compliment I can give to this collection is I really wish that this type of team was the ones that anybody that was coaching in any sport had as a beginning coach. You were kind of my gateway drug for staying in the men's game. I wouldn't want to have had the 3 years with you guys that I had. It was probably the most fun we've had together. So, congratulations on your induction, and I'm not surprised at the success you guys have had.
One of our statisticians, Kim Garufi, couldn't be here tonight, but we do have a young lady there, the rose amongst the thorns, Amy Hildebrand. And you know, one official, long-time official, he'd come here, he says, I love it when I go to Derry because these kids who take care of the books, they're super. So Amy, that was for you. Next young man is Todd Utal. He has a computer engineering degree from Penn State. He works for Latrobe Steel and works as a manufacturing system. He works in manufacturing systems administration. The next young man, he walked the whole way from Florida to get here. Not really. No. Anyway, I haven't seen Bob in a long time. Bob has an accounting degree from St. Vincent. He worked on the executive staff for Arnold Palmer Enterprises. He now owns his own business in his own business in Florida, Spring Hill Outdoor Power Equipment. So if any of you need anything, in the way of it, Bob will take care of you. Ron Clapchalk, the little guy. Ron is Vice President of Operations for Avalotus Corporation in Charlotte, North Carolina. I haven't seen you in 30 whatever years. So good to see you. Next young man, Marty Ressler. He served in the Air National Guard, and now he's full-time with the Guard. He's been in 34 years. He is a Chief Master Sergeant, which is the highest enlisted rank. Bill Smith, 7 years in the Marines. Now, doesn't he look like a big, tough Marine? Anyway, he is the postmaster over at Irwin, North Huntington, and I believe he will be the next Postmaster General of the United States. I'll be bitching for you. The next young man served in the Air Force for 4 years. Bucky Hall, he's been a machinist for 40 years, and he was assistant coach for me for 21 years, and then he stayed on 14 more years. So that's quite a record. 35 years in the volleyball program here at Derry. So Bucky Hall will introduce. All right, the final four guys on our team, the 88 championship team, also played on the 87 runner-up team and the 86 championship team. Mike Marinchek went to Slippery Rock or Slimy Stone University. Sports management is now the CEO of Ligonier YMCA. Played middle blocker, or as the blockers all like to say, middle hitter. And he was very good in that position, especially when he didn't have a broken back, which he actually did his junior year at the beginning of the season. It says Dr. Mark Ray, better known as Mark Ray, Penn State graduate, Temple Medical School graduate, foot and ankle specialist. In today's volleyball, he would be known as the libero or libero. He was the back row specialist. He was very good at digging spikes from the hitters. Now he'll dig your foot. Jim Shaw, graduate of Penn State, chemical engineer. Figured that was just a little bit too easy, so I'd go into math and chemistry teacher at Penn Trafford High School is the boys volleyball coach, also coached the girls team there for quite a while. He was our setter. Jim was a freak of nature. This is my own personal opinion, and I've not been wrong yet. Jim will never tell you this. His dad would never say this. Jim, inch for inch, pound for pound, was the best volleyball player Derry has ever seen. Scott Shirley, also a graduate from Penn State, exercise and sports science, master's degree in health education and leadership studies. He's now the high school principal at Somerset High School and coaches the girls volleyball team. He was also a middle hitter, not the blocker, right? Scott, the middle hitter. Scott, did you forget anything today? Shoes, got your shoes, jersey. Dog Shirley, if you're in the house, you don't have to run home and get anything. Just thank the committee and everybody for this honor, and it was a great pleasure to coach you, gentlemen. I believe now they're going to speak. Bring your buddies. Hey, one quick thing. We don't know what happened to them. John Flickinger and I, we have the Hall of Fame certificates for all these fellows. And somehow, manila folder with certificates in disappeared. So if you aren't part of the team and you have those certificates, okay. All right, he's going to get them somehow.
Good evening. Being inducted into the Hall of Fame is a tremendous accolade that not too many get a chance to experience. Being able to celebrate that accomplishment twice in a high school career is pretty surreal. Unfortunately, because of an injury that Bucky discussed, and he showed me on the court a little while ago where it happened, my Coach Shaw really went out of his way to make me feel part of this 86 team. I really didn't get to experience participating, the thrill of participating that year. Coach Shaw is not only a great coach, but an even better person. Everyone remembers a certain coach, especially one where the team has been successful. But Coach Shaw taught me more about being a better person than a better athlete. In my professional career, I've been able to work my way up the ladder because of lessons learned through these valuable coaches that we have here tonight. Because of not being able to compete in '86, I worked very hard to improve my skills to make sure that I was ready to help this team win games my final 2 years of high school. We did not have one player who needed the spotlight. The individual accolades that some of us had accomplished were only possible because of the success from the other teammates we had and their dedication. Because of the fundamentals these coaches instilled in our team practice, we did not have any weakness for the other teams to exploit. Winning 109 total games, I think I was tournaments, and only losing 25 the entire season shows the desire that we all had to win another state championship. I am very proud to say that I shared the court with these exceptional players and coaches from the '87 and '88 seasons. I think any high school athlete would be proud to say that they were part of 2 seasons that finished runner-up and state championship in 2 consecutive seasons. I have 3 children here with me tonight that have been remarkably successful individual sports careers, with all 3 playing at the college level. I am sure each one of them would have been willing to trade some of those individual accomplishments to be able to feel what it feels like to be a state champion. Cherish and share these memories that we have created. It is not easily accomplished. In closing, I would like to please stand up, my family. I would like to thank my family. When I embarrass you, stand up, please. My wife, Trudy, my boys, Michael and Matthew, my daughter, Madison, my mother-in-law, Pam, and Michael's girlfriend, Kate. Thank you for experiencing this with me.
Hi, my name is Mark Ray. I just talked about, but we're here. That's what that was kind of like our battle cry. Me and Mike kind of came up with, or just screwing around, you know. But what it really meant was, you know, that year was pretty special to us. We meant like, hey, we're here now. We're all involved again. But anyways, like you said, these were, like they mentioned, the very special group that I was a part of. I was very thankful to be part of all 3 teams. What I'd like to say is the 3 different teams were different in different regards. So in '86, I would say that it was kind of new to all of us. We really didn't know what, you know, it was kind of fallible that we were thinking of winning a state championship. And here we ended up winning a state championship. It was amazing. It was an experience. In '87, you know, we knew we had it, but I'm not so sure other people knew we were going to get that far. We came up, you know, 1 or 2 games short. '88, it was, you know, kind of a very special team for all of us. We kind of knew what we had. And I believe it was Mr. Shaw was on the bus one time, and he told us that, you know, that year we were ranked #1 going into the state. It was kind of nice to kind of follow up and bring up a section with you and state championship. So it was a very special time for all of us, a great bunch of guys. But is it just me, or does everybody out here look like they just walked right off of this plaque from back in '88? Same hairline, same waistline. If someone threw up a volleyball right now, I think you can see some really good injuries. So, with that being said, thanks for acknowledging us, and congratulations to everyone. So, thank you.
Quick thank you to the committee and John for putting everything together. Very nice to relive some memories, see some friends that I haven't seen in a long time. So I appreciate that. I just a couple of things came to mind about our team in '88. We were pretty confident. We had a good team in '87, finished strongly, and we were a confident team. And there was mention about the big schools versus the small schools. We were somewhat of a smaller school, but I don't think that we ever thought about that. We were the team. We were the bullies. We screwing around type of experience. It was, we had a great time, and I think we enjoyed playing a lot, and we enjoyed competing, and enjoyed winning a lot that year. So especially, I can remember the final match we played Central York, and just they were a good opponent, not quite good enough, but a good opponent, and it was a really well played match. It was just great. So fun to be a part of that, see guys that, good guys that I grew up with, and got to be really good players over those 4 years there. So just a great memory and a great experience. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to wrap this up. I'd like to thank my wife Stephanie and my parents for being here. We had a group text going about a week and a half ago, talking about what points we would talk about. And the one that I said I would talk about is the actual state championship day. As Jim mentioned, we played Central York in the finals. We beat Peabody, Easton, and Dallastown in our pool play. In the quarters, we beat UMass. One of our Jim and I's teammates, Tom Gingrich, was on that team. They didn't have enough that day. Maplewood was our next opponent in the semis, and then we finished 15-12, 15-12 against Central York. And overall, we went 12-0 throughout that magical day. They don't play as tough now because they play multiple days to get to that championship match. But it was a 12-hour grueling day, and overall, what a success to finish your career with a section championship, a WPIAL championship, which, by the way, was the first for our program, and our second state title. So thank you very much.
One last thought for you, gentlemen. Somehow your certificates have disappeared. They have a young lady with the name of Tar. I don't know whether that falls under what she does, retrieving certificates. But anyway, somehow I have all your addresses, so if we don't come up with them tonight, you will get a certificate. Anyway, on behalf of these fellows, once again, it's a real honor for us. They have been, I've been blessed having the opportunity to work with them, all of them. And they've just been fine young men. It's such a treat for me to see fellows who I haven't seen in a long time. So thank you very much. We'll turn it over to John.
We are on a CSI mission for the certificate. Coach Shaw, don't forget your plaques. There you go. Oh, look what's under the plaques. Certificates. I told you, Mr. Shaw. I never said that to him when I had him as a teacher. Mission accomplished. In closing tonight, I would like to congratulate again all of our wonderful inductees and thank our Hall of Fame committee for their dedication in helping this all come together. The Derry Area Foundation that does a tremendous job. Sarah McKeska, Sarah Crispin-Thomas for setting up our after social at Rosemary's, the golf outing today for the Friends and Alumni Foundation. Also thanks to Dr. Forensic, our superintendent, Caitlin Whiteman, for all of their hard work. Matt Roble back there just does a tremendous job, so many things. Tonight working the auditorium and being my right-hand man, so I appreciate that, as well as our Board of Education and Administration for all of their support. We're going to continue to work hard to make these special nights happen year after year. So again, I say congratulations to the members of our second Hall of Fame class. Have a great night, and I hope to see you all at Rosemary's here in a little bit. Thank you so much.